Greetings, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. As some of you know, we generally do about 3 webinars a month. The first one is usually done by our sales team, and it's an introduction to ClubExpress, kind of a high-level overview. And that's particularly useful for people that are either new to ClubExpress or are evaluating association management solutions and trying to find out if ClubExpress will be good for them. And sometimes these overviews are done from a particular vertical standpoint, maybe a car club or a boating club or a chamber of commerce. And then usually on the second and fourth Wednesday of the month, we do a deep dive into one of the modules, whether it be like today is the jobs board, or it might have been the collectibles module, or it might have been member management or something like that. And every quarter or so, we also do a webinar about new features, because we constantly are upgrading and adding features and refining features to ClubExpress. And so we use these webinars as a way of introducing people to them. So today is going to be about the jobs board. And we generally do a little introduction like this. Then we go into a demonstration. And after that, we have kind of a follow-up questions and answer. Let's take care of a little bit of housekeeping. All of the phones are muted. So if you have questions, we prefer that you enter them into the chat window. Samantha will be monitoring the chat, and she'll either answer them or bring them up. And at the end of the session, we will revisit the questions and try to answer any questions that haven't been answered during the demo. And this is particularly useful for those people that are watching this as a recording after the fact. And speaking of recordings, all of the recordings are available on the clubexpress.com website. So if you go to clubexpress.com, click on the cool stuff link, that brings you to this cool stuff page. On the left side, click on webinars, and it gives you a listing of the upcoming schedule. And right above the webinars tab, there's a video tutorials tab where you can see a list of all the video tutorials and which ones were produced recently. Video tutorials are also available within the help system and also on the support tab on your control panel. Now, all of our tutorials are actually hosted on YouTube. So if you go to YouTube and you're looking at one of our tutorials, it might be really good if you click on the subscribe button and then the notify bell icon. And that way you'll actually be notified whenever there is new content that shows up on the channel. And finally, for those of you that are using ClubExpress, and particularly for those of you where ClubExpress is working really well for your organization, we would love for you to go to clubexpress.com/reviews and enter a review into one of these sites here so that other people that are evaluating association management solutions will have the benefit of your experience. So let's talk about the jobs board. I would venture to say that most people that are using ClubExpress don't know the jobs board is even available. So what is the jobs board? ClubExpress comes with 20 some odd built-in modules that are available to everyone. And there are some special purpose modules that are available for an additional fee. So this is an optional module, and there's a one-time fee of $500 to enable it. And if you want it enabled, you would contact ClubExpress and they can add it to your site and bill you for it. So this module allows professionals and trade organizations to allow their members to post jobs. Now, for a car club, this might not be particularly interesting. But for a chamber of commerce, this might be very interesting to say, okay, we've got all these members here, and we want them to be able to make job postings so that people that come here can know that these jobs are available. And you can make these jobs available so that only members can view it, or optionally, non-members could view it, so visitors to your system. The jobs that your members post may be made available immediately, or they may be subject to an approval process. And the one that we're going to demonstrate today, anything that is entered by a member here will need to be approved. And you can charge a fee to post the job. And the posting has a lifetime. How long is the posting going to run for? And do you allow renewals of this posting? And if so, how much does it cost to renew the posting? So it is sort of a blend of functionality between the collectibles module, which is a module that is available to everyone that lets you catalog items that your members own. And then there's an optional classified ads module, which lets your members put up ads where they want to buy or sell things. So this one is almost a blend of the two. So if you're familiar with either of those other two modules, you're going to find things that are kind of familiar here. So now that we know what the jobs board is, what isn't it? So this is not intended to be a major job recruitment center like Monster or Career Builder. All it does is it lists the jobs, provides a little bit of the job detail, and makes some method of applying available. And there'll be an apply button, and that will either take you to a web page, if the company has a web page, or it just launches your email on your computer and puts the job title into this subject line. So it's not giving any information about the member or the user or anything like that. It's just a way of saying, how do you apply? And it's important to know that from a privacy standpoint, the jobs board doesn't collect resumes or cover letters or applications. It's not serving as a clearinghouse or an intermediary in any way. It's simply putting up a listing that people can click apply, and that will either go to a website or to an email. And similarly, it doesn't provide any anonymizing services, protecting people against applying for jobs in the same company. And right now, only members can create job posts. Although non-members could be configured that non-members could view the posts, there's no way at this point for non-members to log in effect, or post jobs. So this is a feature that you have just for your members. And again, for a professional organization, that's what we're going to be demonstrating on. This may make an awful lot of sense, but for a lot of volunteer organizations and smaller clubs, they probably wouldn't need this. So we're going to do a demonstration. There's a couple of different sides to this. We're going to look at the user view of the jobs board listing. We'll look at the search panel and the results and look at the job information and actually apply for a job. Then we'll log in as a member and show that the jobs board is actually accessed through the member's profile. We'll look at this member's jobs that she has submitted. We'll look at the job status for each one of the jobs. And we'll see that one of them will have been declined, because if you have an approval process, well, one of the things that the approver can do is say no. And there may be good reasons for declining a post. And then we'll have her create a new job and submit it for review. And then we'll talk about the possible scenarios that happens when somebody submits something based on the system configuration, and then show how to renew a job. And finally, from the administrator point of view, we'll log in as an admin, and we'll get to the jobs board administration page via the control panel or through the edit menu. And we'll look at jobs from all of the members. We'll review and approve a job. We'll see if we can decline a job. And we'll look at some of the configuration options, job categories, posting policies, and options. And again, these things, if when you see them, you say, oh, yes, this works just the same as categories in this other area of ClubExpress. It kind of highlights the fact that once you know how to do a basic set of functions in ClubExpress, you can probably go into pretty much any module and be very comfortable there. And then we'll take a look at report and exports. So let me share my screen with you. We are looking here at what's called Demo Club Pro. Normally we use a Balloon Club as a demo, but this is more professional organization, this fictitious Chicago Association of Financial Planners. And at the moment, we're not logged in. You can see that the member login is here. And we don't have a link to the jobs board module on the menu. So I'm going to log in as a member. And her name is Amy Aronson. And she has some money due. We'll take a look at what's due for her in a bit. But now, because we're logged in and because this site, as most sites, has a different set of menus and a different homepage for members versus visitors, the jobs board has been placed on the members submenu. So when we go to this members submenu and we go to the jobs board, you can search for jobs for any particular category, entry-level positions, interns, and we'll get into configuring those categories in a little bit. You can search for a title, search for a company, and if the user simply presses search, they will see the jobs that are available. Now, some of these, because it's a demo site, some of these were created quite some time ago, but they have been renewed several times. So if we look at the listing here, you'll see the title of the listing, when it was posted, the company it was posted for, and the location. On this side here, it says how many positions are available. So for a school bus driver, we've got 2 positions available. We also can tell if this is a part-time position or a full-time position. And there's an apply button. I'll come back to the apply button in a moment. On this side here is a view more icon. So when you click on that, it opens it up so you can find more information about the job. And the details will have only those fields that actually have data in it. There are actually a few more fields that are available, but if you don't have required experience, it's not going to show you a blank line here. And so for the receptionist, there's a little description that says entry desk receptionist, morning shift, required qualifications, high school diploma, good communication skill, et cetera, et cetera. There's a salary and a lot of free-form types of text. For a school bus driver, they say we need 2 of them for weekday transportation of middle school children. And in this one here, there's more information. So if you click on this, it would jump to another web page. This is just a URL I made up, so it's fake. And this may just be more information about the organization. It doesn't have to be more information about the job. But in both of these cases, if I click the apply button, all that it is doing, by the way, it also doesn't show who posted it. It doesn't show that this one happened to be posted by Amy and another one might have been posted by another member. So if I click the apply button, this one is set to launch an email. And there it goes. And you'll see it's a blank email. And it is taking the to information from an email address that's in the job itself. When we create a job, you'll see how that's done. And the subject is simply the title. And then this person, whoever is applying for the job, would type in their resume and whatever they need. But there's nothing else done here. You don't know who created the job posting or anything like that. It's simply a way of contacting the email address for this particular item. When you click on the apply, if you apply via a website, it would simply open up in another tab or another window the website page for that particular job, assuming that the organization has such a page. So this is pretty easy. I mean, and we have these different categories. So if we wanted to say entry-level positions and I do a search, now it's just these 2, you see. You get to control the categories and all of that, but it's a very simple mechanism, but can be incredibly useful for some organizations and incredibly valuable to offer it as a service to your members, especially since you can charge for the original posting and optionally for renewals. So one thing I do want to show is if you come over here, for those of you that are not familiar with our new help system, if you click on the help icon, this will take you to in this case, the user interface for the jobs board. And so you can look here, and in fact, you can print out just this section, or you can click over here and it'll take you to our YouTube channel, and it will show you the one tutorial that's out there for the jobs board. So it's very easy to get to that 14-minute tutorial. We're logged in as Amy. And so let's assume that we want to create a new jobs board post. And it turns out she had posted these 2 here. So if we go to her profile by hovering over her name and clicking on profile, on the member profile screen, if you've enabled the jobs board shows up here. So when Amy clicks on it, she will see all of the jobs that she has either posted or submitted. Amy is posting jobs for a library. And so she's already posted a job for an accountant and for a bookkeeper and for a custodian, an IT specialist, a librarian, an information assistant, and receptionist. You saw that one on the main page. And it shows what the category is. And if she's not sure what the posting policy should be, you would click on posting policy here. And it says here that this is something that actually Samantha put in here. Jobs board is used to advertise positions to other members, to submit a job, do this, right? And it's saying that we're going to charge you $75 to advertise for an open position and $25 to renew the advertisement. And saying that all ads require approval, and members will be notified if they don't get approved. So it's basic rules and regulations so that the person who is trying to submit a job post knows that they're going to get charged for it and all of that. So you have total control over that. And the status is what state is the job in right now. And of all of her jobs, only one of them is active. Only one shows up on the board, which is the morning receptionist. There are 3 of them that have been submitted, but they've not yet been approved. There are 2 of them that she's still working on. She's not submitted it yet. So she can come over here and say, all right, this one has been submitted for the librarian and it's been approved. But as you can see on the jobs board, it didn't show up. So if she comes over here and says, I want to make a payment, she would click on it and no, it's probably just be one of these 2 because with our testing, we had 2 of them. Right now, because it's a demo club, she could send in a check. We will go in as an administrator in a couple of moments and record that we received the check from her. Typically on your site, you may be able to just pay by credit card. And if she pays by credit card after approved pending payment, it would simply just become active at that moment. So she can come in and edit any of these things. So if something is in draft mode, she can just go back into draft mode and finish doing what she was doing. I'll come back here. If something is in draft mode or submitted mode or pending payment, she can actually delete it. And that just removes it entirely. If it has gone active, what you can do is you can cancel it. And that's typically used if you had a post that was up and you filled the position. And you say, okay, the job has been canceled. Or a job could be in a position where you want to renew it. It's going to expire on the 4th of March, and you want to extend it for another run. So she could just click on here, renew it, and it would show up a $ next to it saying, okay, you got to pay for the renewal. So I'm going to do something a little different than I normally do it. I'm going to add a new job. So this is the jobs board for Amy Aronson. So we're only looking at hers. She's logged in looking at her own jobs. So if she wants to add a job, it knows who she is. So we don't have to tell her who she is. And I've got another screen here. So I'm just going to be copying and pasting text. So I asked my wife today, what other job position do we have? So I'm going to say this is a youth program coordinator. And I'm going to say we only need 1. But actually, I'm going to say we need 11 of them. I'm putting in a typo. And this is, let's call this an entry-level position. And we're going to make this for the Rolling Meadows Library. And how do they reply? Do they reply via email or do they reply via a website? If they are to reply via email, you have to fill in this field down here, contact application email. If they apply via a website, you have to fill in this application URL field. And it would give you an error message if the appropriate companion field isn't filled in. So let's just say that we're going to send an email. There's a field here that says hidden, yes or no. That is disabled because Amy is not an administrator. And the status is handled automatically by the system. So in the beginning, your status is draft. All right, so let's talk about what this youth program is. So the description, so all of these things here, the minimal information is title, number of positions, category, and the company. All the rest of this is optional. Anything that is required has a red dot next to it. So we're going to say that this is a youth program coordinator, part of a dynamic and collaborative team, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You could put in an application URL, even if you're putting in apply via email, but this library doesn't have a website for their job postings. And we'll say that the contact is going to be Mary Libet. And we're going to use a phone number here. And for the application email, let's use that email. Okay, as far as the job type goes, we can say don't show it or show that it's hourly or salaried. I'm going to say don't show it. A salary range, let's make it $25 an hour. It's going to be a part-time job. And duration, let's make it 20 hours a week. And then the location, we'll say it's in Chicago, and there's no travel involved. And then for qualifications, that we want an associate's degree or something like that, and experience. So I'm just copying and pasting from some text that I found on the web. 1 year working experience. And let's see, there's some additional information. Let's grab that, put it here. And additional information URL. And I can either save it as a draft, which means I'm not ready to submit it yet, or I can submit it. So let's just go submit it. And it said the job has been submitted. You'll be notified when it has been reviewed by an administrator. So that's all we can do at this point, except she could go in, if something had been declined, she could go in and edit it, but we're going to decline that one that she just did. So that doesn't show up because it's just been submitted. That's youth program coordinator. You can see it's entry level position. It's been submitted. She can whack it entirely if she decides I don't want to do it. But let's now log in as another user. Let's log in as an administrator, M. Smith. Hello. And if I go to the jobs board here, we're going to see the same 4 items as before. And we can either get to the general jobs board administration screen by going to the page tools widget, click on edit, or by going to the control panel and going to what here called the association tab. On yours, it might say club or theater or organization or whatever. That's one of the things that you configure as to what you want to call your type of organization. And if I click on jobs board here, this brings us to the jobs board manager. And of course, I can filter by category. I can filter by status. Like if I only wanted to see the ones that were submitted, those are the ones I need to review. But I'm just going to search generally. And you can see, I can say I want to see all those that are expiring by a particular date, so that maybe we want to reach out to some people. And the results here are sorted by the member last name. So the one here, this youth program coordinator, you'll see it's in submitted mode. And we have another one here, library information assistance, that's also in submitted. So if I go over here to, well, let's do the custodian. I'm going to fix this one because I knew she didn't mean to do that. And I'm just going to approve that. See, so I'm reviewing it. I can either approve it or decline it. So we're going to approve the custodian one. And so the job has been saved. So now if I look at custodian, its status had gone from originally was draft, then it was submitted, and now it's approved pending payment. If we go to the youth program coordinator and I go to edit that one, I'm going to say, I don't know how many youth coordinators they want, but 11 seems wrong. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to decline this one. And I'm going to say, it looks like you made a mistake in the number of positions available. Please correct and resubmit. And an email will actually be sent to her with that information. So now what we see is that youth program coordinator has been declined. Okay? Right? That was the one that we know. It was the custodian that we did a pending payment. So I'm going to say that I'm going to go in here and just say that we received a check for that. Let's record the check payment. And now let's see if we go to the jobs board. So now it shows up with all of its information here and such. The status could be a number of different things. So draft means the job posting is still being defined by the member and it's not ready to be submitted for approval or payment. And it's not displayed as a possible position. Submitted means only when approval is required. And in this particular organization, both approval and payment is required. So submitted means that when approval is required, that the job posting is awaiting review. Approved pending payment means it's been reviewed, but it hasn't been paid yet. Renewed pending payment, do we have one here? Let's assume that I want to renew one here. I'll just say this one here. If I say let's renew this, and I go back, that one will be renewed pending payment, and the payment icon shows up here. It would show up on Amy's list. Active means that it shows up in the list. Declined means that a note has been sent out that was declined for some reason or another. Expired means that the job posting has run its course and is either ready to be renewed or is done entirely. And canceled means that the job posting was canceled by the member before it expired, perhaps because the position was filled or the position was removed before it was filled. So those are the options there. And the rest of these are pretty much the same as on Amy's screen, with the exception of if you go into submitted, if you're an administrator, you get this approved and declined item here. Now, if an administrator goes to add a job, there's two things that are different. One is that you have to say which member you are creating the job for. Some member called in and said, listen, I don't want to enter this, and will you please enter this for me? Well, you have to select the member so that they're the ones that would get the email about being declined or approved or whatever. So that's one thing that's a little different, that you have to select the member and, you would doing it on behalf of this member. All the rest of the information is the same, except the buttons are a little different. You can save it as a draft, and that way it stays in draft mode. And there's no submit button because you're an administrator or a coordinator. You're reviewing it. You don't need to submit it and then have it be set up for review. You are reviewing it. So if you save it, you're saving it with the understanding that it has been approved. This is okay to post. So that's a little different. But other than that, it's exactly the same. You're just saying you're doing this on behalf of a member. So let's look at briefly a couple of configuration options. You can configure job categories. And so this is a standard ClubExpress category screen where you can add a category, and it'll ask you for the category name and whether or not that category is active. And you might decide to edit one, say, okay, we're no longer doing interns. And so you want to uncheck active so that when somebody is adding a post, intern wouldn't appear on the category list. So that's just normal category administration. You can configure the posting policy. And so we could come over here and just change the text color and save it. And you can configure the options. And this is where you make some decisions about how jobs behave. If there is a fee for job posting, you enter it here. If there is no fee, put in a 0. If there is a fee charged for renewals, you enter it here. If there are no fees charged for renewal, just simply uncheck it and the field disappears. So here we're charging $75 for the initial posting and $25 for a renewal fee. For financial accounts, you can put in whatever your financial account is. If you're using QuickBooks, you put in the QuickBook items name. And when somebody makes a post, how long does this post stay active? So here we've got it for 3 weeks. You might make it for a week. You might make it for 30 days or whatever. Then you have these two choices. Does a new posting require approval? And because if it's not checked and they press submit, what it will do is it'll just go directly, depending on whether or not there's a fee. If there's no fee, it'll just become active. If there is a fee, it says that it's approved, because there's no approval process, approved pending payment, and it doesn't go active until the payment is made. And then the question is, can the member edit the post after it has been approved or once it's been activated? If you select this, the only thing that they can actually change is the number of positions available. They can't change anything else about it. But if they went from, we needed 3 people, but hey, we've already filled 2 positions, this lets them go in and change the number of positions available. And then how many times can a member renew the posting? So if you say that this is 30-day post and you make it available for 3 renewals, then it could be up to 120 days, 30 days for the original post and 3 30-day renewals. Note that as an administrator, you can always renew someone's post at any time, regardless of the maximum number of renewals. The maximum number of renewals only applies to the member. And then who's the contact person? And the contact person will be notified about any postings that are done. So if we go back to the job board manager, you'll see there's reports, active job posting by expiration date and by member. And on these things here, it'll ask you, what you want to do for the output of the job. And that's pretty much it. Again, you can renew any job. If that librarian, let's assume that if I go back in, if I go back in as Amy, and I look at her postings, she'll see that the youth program coordinator has declined. There's a little quirk in the system right now. If I want her to resubmit this, when she goes to fix it, saying, well, no, I know there weren't 11, we only needed 1. At the moment, there's no submit button here. So all she needs to do is save it as a draft and then go back in, and the submit button will be there. I suspect that's something that we're going to change. And now if she submits it, it'll say that now it's being reviewed by the administrator. And if I come back in as Martin, and I log in here, and I go back into Jobs Board and edit, and let's look at this youth program coordinator. It's submitted. If I say, okay, she corrected the error, let's approve it, which will put it into the approved pending payment. Amy gets a notification that's approved as pending payment. Amy then goes in and let's have her pay for all of the ones she had here. And she handed Martin cash. And now, if I go to the jobs board, the librarian is there, the youth program coordinator is there, the custodian is there, all the stuff is there as we would expect it to be there because it's been reviewed, it's been paid, etc. Again, if you don't set up a review process and you don't charge for it, they just go live as soon as they submit. If you do charge for it, they go live as soon as they paid for it. And if you do review, then there's the administrator portion of it for review that can be done either by the administrator or by coordinators. And just to refresh the way coordinators are done, on pretty much all of these modules, in addition to these being administered by the system administrator, you can say who is a coordinator of this module. And I can add a coordinator, so let's do Susan Adams. So now when Susan logs in, she would get a control panel, and on the association tab, she'd be able to administer the job board just like Martin as a system administrator goes. And I know I've covered a lot of ground, but it's a fairly simple mechanism. It's really a way of listing jobs, and it's a way of your organization getting a little bit of income for the privilege of having your members list it. Some of your members, for some types of professional organizations in particular, might say, oh, I would love to be able to let people know within our organization that these jobs are available, and don't have to do it for your own club. If you know that your library needs people, and that your delicatessen needs people, and that your DPW needs people, whatever, you can post the job ad here, and people can simply say, oh yeah, I want to apply for this youth program coordinator, and it will launch my email where I can explain why either I or someone I know would be a really good fit for that. So Samantha, are there any questions in the chat room?
There was one question of something that you had demonstrated. So seeing an example of approving or declining a job, as well as the email that's sent in the event that the job posting is declined. I don't know if you have a copy of the email, but it essentially just shows that the job was declined, what the job posting was, and if the administrator includes a reason of why it was declined, that gets inserted in the email itself.
Right. Well, this user doesn't actually exist, and the emails are fake, so I don't have a copy there. But yeah, it's just that. It might be in here if we go to communications, set up system emails. If we look under jobs board post declined, good. That means I can come over here, and it says the job board post you submitted was declined. It gives you the post title, the date it was declined, who declined it, who was the admin, what was the reason, and then contact the admin. And so you as an administrator can come in and customize this thing. We could say, we're really sorry that this post that you had was declined. It may be a typo, and here's Fred's phone number and all that stuff. But this is the basis for that email. And pretty much any of these things, any of your system emails can be customized. So if I go to job post declined, and so if I said something like, we're really sorry, and I save that, what will happen next to the job post declined in this column here is the customized column. So you get a check mark in here next to anything that you have customized. So if I went into edit, you would see my edit there. If I click on delete here, what it's doing is not deleting the email from the system, but it's deleting the customization. So if I delete this and confirm it, now if I go back into jobs board declined and I click on this, we're back to the standard email. So that was a good question. And so now we know exactly what's put into it, what it looks like. It's explaining exactly what fields have been in there and who it was declined by and why it was declined. So I think that pretty much covers what I wanted to go over. Samantha, anything else?
That's it.
Okay, well, as always, we appreciate you spending some time with us during these webinars, and we hope you found this useful and gives you an overview of the jobs board functionality, and you can determine if this is something that would benefit your organization. Again, it's easy to implement. You just contact ClubExpress, tell us that you want it installed in your system, and a couple of things have to happen on the back end, and they set it up for you. So thank you everyone for coming, and we hope to see you at the next webinar.